There's this story I want to tell that Steve Jobs gave in his infamous commencement speech at Stanford. And the point that he makes is that you could really only connect the dots backwards. And he tells a story about how he one of the core promises that Steve Jobs' biological parents made when they put him up for adoption to his adopted parents was that he needs to go to college. That was a core factor, was that they wanted him to go to college. And in fact, his story is super interesting because he originally was supposed to have a different set of adopted parents because the contingency of the biological parents was that he was adopted by college educated people, and his adopted parents ended up not being college educated. So they made the promise that they would save up and let him go to college. But he dropped out pretty immediately. I think like within in his first year he dropped out of college. And this was a big thing for him, right? Like that must have been a hard choice to make, not only because he had these working class parents who saved every almost all of their money to put him into college, but it was just a core promise that they had made. And he said that because he left, he was able to follow his interest and see where that took him. And he said the story he tells is that he took a calligraphy course, not knowing how it would come in handy until 7 years later. All the calligraphy that he studied, or 7 years, however many years later, all the calligraphy that he studied in that class came back to him when he was building the Mac, and it helped him build a beautiful typography into the computer. Now, how much of this is a founder myth making for themselves versus truth? I don't know, but I like to think that we could take him at face value. And he makes this point that you could really only connect the dots backwards, and that you need to have faith in something when you're when you're walking through the journey of your life.